This program is brought to you by the Reeves Law Firm, www.reevesfirm.com.
In the know.
Good evening, everyone.
In the know. Tony Reeves. Tony Reeves. Tony Reeves. Tony Reeves. Fire. Following the news in any way, shape, or form. No shortage of things to talk about. What does it mean? What will it bring? Is this a reality we simply have to accept? Tony Reeves. Fire. Tony Reeves. Let's go ahead and get started.
I've done a video on this before, but in light of some comments that I've been receiving lately, I thought maybe it'd be appropriate for me to do a refresher video about when should I hire, who should I hire, and when should I fire my Social Security disability representative. Let's talk about this for a second. I'm very blessed because a lot of you guys who watch my videos are very, very sophisticated, but there's been a few of you popped up, of course, maybe this is the first time you've checked me out. So I want to make sure I keep providing you information that's useful to you because most people come at different points of the process. So they either have a representative or they don't have one, or they're trying to figure out if they need one. So we're going to keep this focus on really three things. We could talk about this all day until I'm like blue in the face, but I want to focus on really three areas and kind of go over them as a general overview. When should you hire someone? Who should you hire? And if you're not happy with your representative, when should you fire that representative? The biggest question most people ask is, when should I hire a representative? Here's the first thing you need to be aware of. You can hire a representative at any point of the disability process. And for those who are not sure what that means when you first apply, when you're at the initial or the reconsideration level, that's the first two at the local office, whether it's at the hearing level, which means going before a judge, if you've been denied by a judge, appealing to the appeals council, or if by some reason you've gone through the entire process and you want to sue the Social Security Administration, federal court. At any points of the process, you can actually hire somebody. But you really have to ask yourself two questions. Do you feel comfortable handling the case on your own? And do you understand what you need to do to prove your case along the way? This is going to sound silly and maybe overly simplified, but this is what I tell people all the time. When they ask me, do I need to hire a representative? I'm like, well, you don't need to do anything. Think of it like repairing a car. If you know how to fix a car, do you need to take your car into a mechanic? Maybe not necessarily so. But if you're not familiar with how to fix a car and your transmission goes, do you have the time, the patience, and the energy to learn how to physically disassemble the engine to do that? Or would you rather have someone who could do it for you so you don't have to worry about doing that? So it really is more of a preference, meaning do you feel comfortable filling out the forms and presenting your case in a way that's going to present it in the strongest light? And do you understand what your burdens and responsibilities are? And as I indicated here, you can hire you can hire a representative at any point of the process, whether it be right before you get started or right when you're getting ready to sue in federal court. It's really more of a personal preference. Now, the biggest question that most people ask is, who should I hire? The simple fact of the matter is that most people have never hired a representative before. So this may seem a little scary to you when you're talking about turning your case over into somebody else's hands. Social Security disability is a federal administrative practice, so you can hire somebody who's local or even outside of the state. Some people like to use their loved ones and their friends, especially if it's somebody who's intimately familiar with everything that's going on in their life. There's a lot of resources out there to find a representative. Organizations like the National Organization of Social Security Claimants Representative, the National Association of Disability Representatives, NADR. There are local bar associations as well as in legal aid associations that can provide you resources about how to find someone that can assist you. So it really is more of a matter of a personal preference in terms of who you should hire. One of the things that I tell people is ask questions. It's interesting because in today's social media market, you can, or in the day of the internet, you can find information about everybody that you need online so that you can educate yourself to ask those questions. So start doing some of that research in terms of, okay, let me find out what this person is, how long have they been doing this? What types of cases do they take? Can they tell you about what the likelihood of your success, likelihood of success? What is the success rate? What types of things do you need to be aware of? And these are questions that you can ask to determine who you should hire. Now, here's something that you need to be aware of. Social Security law actually permits representatives to be attorneys or non-attorneys. So here's a few things that you need to be aware of in terms of the difference. Attorneys are typically governed by their state bar association. They can represent you before the Social Security Administration. If by some chance they go all the way through the disability process, they can actually sue the Social Security Administration in federal court, but they may not represent clients in federal court, so you need to get clarification about that. Non-attorney reps actually have to take an exam with the Social Security Administration. They also can represent you before the Social Security Administration. However, a non-attorney can't represent you in federal court, but many of them have relationships with attorneys who can. I say this to say a couple of things so that you understand the difference. First of all, let me make this point abundantly clear. There are great representatives who are non-attorneys and attorneys, just like there's bad representatives that are attorney and non-attorneys. The reality is that if they're practicing before the Social Security Administration, you're in good hands with both. There are those subtle nuances that if you have an attorney, if by some chances you go and you filed your application, you get denied twice, go before a judge, get denied, do the appeals council, get denied, and you now want to take it into federal court, if you have a non-attorney, they're not going to be able to take it into federal court. Now, you may ask yourself the question, well, how am I going to know that? Ask them when you're speaking to somebody and you're considering hiring somebody, come flat out and say, listen, are you an attorney or are you a non-attorney? And let them tell you what they have to say. And if they say they're a non-attorney, ask them, do you have relationships with individuals so that if we have to take this thing into federal court, we can do so. If they are an attorney, ask them whether or not they take cases into federal court. I always tell people that when you're going into federal court, the burden is so much tougher. Not every practice and not every lawyer likes to take cases into federal court. That may be part of their business model. Doesn't mean that they're not good attorneys, or it doesn't mean they're bad attorneys. It just means that depending on how they like to do things, they may limit their practice to solely before the Social Security Administration and not going into federal court. But you need to ask those questions so that you know how far you can go with that representative. Okay, now, here comes the brawl for it all. I've heard this a million times. You've gotten to the point, you've got a representative, you're angry. When should you fire your representative? People, let me make this point abundantly clear. You have a right to fire your representative. Let me just throw this out there. You have a right to fire your representative. But before you do, I want to share with you a few tidbits of information with you. So this way, when you're getting ready to make that decision to go to another representative, I want to make sure that you are completely informed about what you're going to do. First of all, take the time to speak with your representative about your concerns. People, I get people who vent to me all the time. I'm pretty sure there's people who go to websites and vent about me. I understand that. But if your attorney or your non-attorney is unaware of your concerns, how can they fix them? So make sure you take the time to speak with your representative. And when I say speak with them, I mean schedule a time to actually meet with them or talk to them on the phone as opposed to leaving a message. Let me tell you something. If I've been in court for 2 or 3 days in a row, I'm going to have a boatload of messages. I got news for you. If you left a message for me at 1 o'clock in the afternoon and I get in at 4, I'm going to call the people who I didn't get a chance to call yesterday. I might not get to you till tomorrow. That may make you angry when you want to talk to me right now. Well, schedule a time with the paralegals so this way you know you have a time dedicated to when you're going to speak with me. Now, make sure your concerns are based on fact, not feeling. A lot of times when people are going to talk to their representative, they are fired up, man. They're mad. They want to let them know what they did wrong. Stop for a second and ask the question, what specifically are you upset about? So that this way they'll know what's going on. And more importantly, make sure you have an understanding of your case and what's being done on your behalf. A lot of times what happens is that there's work that's being done on your case, but because you don't know about it, you think nothing is happening. So make sure you get a complete, unequivocal understanding in terms of what actually is being done with regards to your case. And then finally, if you're not happy, you may need to start exploring other options. I can tell you, it has been my experience. It's been my experience that I've, on more than one occasion, when people come to me and I tell them that I need you to go and take the time to actually go and speak to your representative and basically lay out your concerns, make sure they're based on fact, not feeling, and more importantly, get a complete understanding of what's being done. I'm going to say this with the greatest confidence in the world, and this may seem like I'm bragging, but I'm actually proud of this. Most people do not come back to me once I tell them to do that. Because usually at the end of the day, that's the one thing that hasn't happened. They haven't had that come to Jesus, die hard conversation where they were like, listen, what's going on with my case? Once a person gets a full understanding of what's going on with their case, it is your case, you tend to feel a little bit more at ease because finally you understand what's going on. All right. Now I want you to understand a few things that I want to share you kind of as an overview of what we talked about here today. First of all, when you hire a representative, communicate your expectations. A lot of times people go in and they don't share what they're expecting. Now, don't get me wrong. Some of you are like, well, I don't even know what to expect. You're right. But the reality is that actually you do. You know what you want. Like I tell people when they come to me, I know there's two things that they want. They want to get approved and they want to get done fast. Great. So I make sure I address those two things so they understand at the very beginning. But sometimes there's other things that are going on that I don't know of in terms of their expectations. Maybe they had a bad experience with other representative or they've been doing this on their own. Communicate your expectations. The other thing you need to realize is that every office is different. Remember, if you're hiring a firm, some firms or offices are local and you're dealing with them one-on-one. You might be dealing with a large firm that has attorneys and representatives all over the place. You may be dealing with a company that basically has contract attorneys. Make sure you understand the dynamics of that office and how they operate and make sure that that works well with you. You may be the client, but the representative handles the strategy. A lot of times what happens is that people have it in their mind of what they think should happen in a case, but the representative is the one that's presenting your case. So you need to understand and appreciate what they're doing to present the best case for you going forward. Also, the process is long. So there may be gaps in communication. In other words, there may be times you don't hear from your representative. That doesn't mean they've given up on you or they've walked away and they've forgotten about you. It's just this process is a long one to begin with. And there may be periods of time where you don't hear from them. It could be a couple of weeks, it could be a couple of months. So don't freak out. Make sure you understand what's going on. Meaning, make sure you have an understanding of what's being developed, what portion of the process, what part of the process that you're at. Make sure you get a great understanding of what's going on, because a lot of times what happens, the reason why people get really frustrated is because they really just don't have a clue as to what's happening with their case. So make sure you understand what's going on. Make sure you understand what's being done in terms of medical development. Make sure you understand what the problem areas in your case. Make sure you understand what you need to do to assist. Also, before you start accusing your rep of doing or not doing something, ask first. The one thing that's tough is that life does not stop while you're applying for disability benefits. So when you're sitting here and I know what happens, you're out there, you're trying to survive, and then people are like, have you heard from your rep? I'm just saying, my rep got me benefits real quick. I don't know what's going on. And all of a sudden you get upset because you don't know what's going on. There may be things happening. You just don't know because a lot of these things are happening behind the scenes. Ask. And most importantly, just remember, at the end of the day, you are still responsible for proving you're disabled. So you want to make sure that you have a relationship with your representative, a team environment, so that you two can work together in presenting your case in the best manner possible in order to get you the outcome you're looking for. I know that this is frustrating, and trust me when I tell you, I could talk about this all day because there's a lot of stuff, and I didn't want to bore you for 20 to 30 minutes talking about a representative. I can do a long video. Matter of fact, when I do my Disability Talk Live at the beginning of July, if you want to come and talk to me and ask me a lot of questions about what's the best way to determine whether you should hire or fire someone, we can do it then. But just keep in mind a few things. This case is yours. Every office is a little different. Make sure you understand what you need to do and what your representative is doing for you. And if things aren't working to the manner that you believe are appropriate, it's okay to change gears and go in a different direction. Good luck to you, and if you had any more questions, please, by all means, keep them coming.